A missile strike in Jordan leads our vegetable-in-chief, Joe Biden, to come out and tell us that he will respond. He's sure of that. With the full force that's necessary to appropriately deal with the fact that apparently Iran killed American troops. So we're going to go over all the details of this. Some of the stuff I'm actually a little bit cloudy on because from what I've heard about this and what I understand about this, this was friendly fire that did this. But we're going to go over all the details that the news has put out, what Biden plans to do, and how Congress plans to rein him in for... Wow, I can't actually believe I'm saying those words, but we'll go over all of that, what's happening there, and what this means for our country going forward. In other news, Joe Biden, in the news again, stares down a man in a wheelchair, tells him that he will also take the appropriate action necessary to get the goals that he wants on the southern border, and, well, the man in the wheelchair tells him to go and screw himself, so... We'll go over what's happening there, the way the media is trying to spin this, and the Freedom Convoy. Yes, they're going to try to pull that again. So we'll talk about that, what's happening there, and what we do with that. Ilhan Omar has calls to resign again after she says that she is Somalia first on a stage talking to constituents. So we'll go over some of that, what that means, and where we go with that. And the White House clinic was apparently a drug den. Yes, you heard that correctly. I can't believe I'm reading that either. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Feather Crest Farms and a host more over here on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, grab some friends, start the conversation, and we will see you on the other side of the title card. And I'm giving you everything. All that joy can bring, rather. This I swear. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I see Lunar Trees over there on the Twitch side. Thank you for joining us over here today. Those of you who are in here watching, I know I usually get a lot of lurkers throughout the stream here, especially on the news stream. I know a lot of people, especially around dinner time, have this on in the background. But if you see something you want to comment on it, I do encourage you always to do that, because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this is a little secret that they don't want you to know about this, but I did the math and I figured this out. The more live chat you have going at any given time, especially in a topic like talk shows and podcasts, the more likely you are to be brought to the front page of whichever streaming platform you're put on. Now, I'm algorithmically demoted on YouTube already, so there is that avenue to things. And my two big audiences are always Twitch and Rumble. And it's the same on the Rumble side, too. The more people I see pour in is when Dual Helix goes on his rants over there. Because... that's more algorithm that they say, hey, we need to go put this up onto the front page. So, always speak your mind when you're on this channel. Always do. I do check and read live chats in between topics, and, well, pretty much whenever else I see them too. So, I know the Mogwai has got me completely distracted at some points, laughing at something that he's put off there, and that's okay. This is live. This is raw. Well, you might be listening to this on a replay, Quest Fanning. I see you out there. You might be listening to this on a replay that I'll put back up on YouTube and on the audio platforms. You can find this on Spotify if you can't stick around for the entire stream. But we have got a ton to go over here today, and I actually got a little bit of a late start. I tried to eat dinner before we got to this, and just I couldn't. There is a bowl of ground beef, cheesy ground beef with broccoli sitting right next to me, tempting me. and I'm going to devour that as soon as we're done here, especially since we have a lot to go over here today. So strap yourselves in, get a snack. I won't eat it in front of you, but you guys feel free to grab a snack. Tell me what you're eating. Make sure that I am ready to go back and get some dinner as well. Tell me what you're eating. Tell me how your day was. Tell me everything you want. I want to see your chatter today. But we are also going to talk about the news. So let's get into this. Let's get started. And, well, let's have some fun. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out that programming. It's an awesome time. I can vouch for both of these people. I've been to one of their houses and I've been invited to the other one. I just have not made it down to that part of Tennessee. So go check them out. It's going to be a great time. It's always a fun time in both of those streams. Always live, always checking in and out. KTZed takes calls every once in a while too. So go check that out. And let's get down to the news. Let's get started. Get this up and let's get this going here. Get the live chats up here so I can see what you guys are doing. Bunch of lurkers over on the Rumble side. Lunar Trees again with the emotes going on here. That's I think a Cat Pants refugee, I think. So thank you for that. I'm gonna come right out and say something that I have not said out in that community, but I was insanely shy to tell you guys what I did about Contemporary when I started. Because I have been booted out of so many live streams before, because I typically don't agree on a sociological or socioeconomic level with the hosts. I am banned from several, and that's not anything I did in the chat. It's just they got curious, they looked and saw what I did, and next thing I know, I come back and you're not permitted to chat in this channel. And I like you guys over on the Cat Pants team, I really do. So I don't want to get banned from there for any reason whatsoever. Ever. It's always nice too. It's one of the things. I always say, I enjoy talking about politics. I apparently do very well at it because people come back and watch me do it over and over again. But once that camera is off, once the microphone is off, I don't want to hear about it. I'm done. I am burnt out and I want to watch somebody shoot somebody else or some other stuff up in Fallout 4. That's how I am. That's how I play. Anyway, let's get started, because this is going to be a very depressing show, I think. We're actually going to start with a little bit of finance again, going back to the Contemporary roots back when this was a daily show. Now, I'm not going to go completely through everything that was going on with that and make it right from the top of, hey, we're going to look at the Dow, we're going to look at the jobs report, we're going to read a finance article and everything. But it is important to start looking and seeing where the jobs report is going right now because, well, we keep getting told that we've created X amount of millions and billions of jobs out there, and, well, I've never seen the numbers to back that up. I've seen a lot of part-time jobs and second jobs get filled, absolutely. And this is just from what I'm seeing on the ground. This is not what I'm seeing from the statisticians that work for the government who don't necessarily see who's filling the jobs. They just see another job, another job, another job, another job. But we've got two major layoffs today. One of them following on the heels of exactly 1 year ago that had another major set of layoffs here. PayPal is beginning company-wide layoffs just 2 weeks after the CEO said that they would shock the world. Well, surprise. Hey, everything you were planning to do for the beginning part of spring, that spring break and Easter and everything else, well, you're going to have to find another job to finance it. Shock the world. This comes the same day, and this one really surprised me because, well, I keep hearing that manufacturing is such a huge deal in this country right now, and things need to get shipped. But UPS is also dropping 12,000 workers today. 12,000 across the country. That is a massive number. That negates job growth of some months from even before they edited it down. That negates job growth into some of the months that we've seen in this administration. Exactly a year ago, PayPal laid off 2,000 employees, which reflected 7% of the workforce. Layoffs are ramping up into 2024. Like I said before, one of the things that I said about this going into this election year especially, I don't know what's going to happen in November. Statistically, it looks like there's going to be a change in administration, but, I mean, we've been surprised by that before, so one thing I always say, especially if you are in a position that's vulnerable right now, drop a vice, gain a skill. If you have the opportunity to get more hours at your current job, do so. If you have the opportunity to get another job, do it now. Don't do it late in the year when you're the newest guy in the totem pole, right when the layoffs come. Get to a point where you can actually prove your worth to the company and make yourself indispensable. If you can do it, now is the time to do it. In 3 months, I would say don't do it. But right now, if you can, and you have the opportunity to move up and move out to somewhere else, do so now. But also get yourself a side hustle. Because no matter what happens in November, it's going to get rough through the foreseeable future to 2025 and 2026. So, protect yourself. I want to see all the heads healthy, eating well, starting families, and doing things like that. Even though I never started a family myself, I want to see the rest of you guys do so. The update from PayPal is that this will be 2,500 employees, or 9% of the workforce at PayPal. Since last year this time, PayPal has laid off 4,500 employees. So do keep that in mind. I would say, well, I wouldn't say, because those are 3 words you actually can't say on YouTube, but I would say to educate yourself into machine language and computers, but it seems that seems to be the industry that's getting hit the hardest throughout all this. So there is that aspect of things as well. But do take care of yourselves always. I find it funny. The paid shills, which there are many, and I might make fun of them all the time. The paid shills over on X. Jojo from Joy's is the one that came out and said it. Says, "No, MAGA! The stock market isn't up because the investors are seeing that Donald Trump is coming in. It's because Joe Biden's economy is great." Well, honestly, given the way that billionaires donated last election cycle through, I would almost say that they are up because Donald Trump is leading in polls right now, not because finance is actually good. I would say that these people are trying to make Biden's economy look as good as it can, and your 401ks look as good as they can, because otherwise that's another plank in the Trump platform. These people are a little bit shifty, so keep that in mind as we go. But we've got to talk about World War III. We're going to start with an X from disclose.tv. A very short one, of course. Just in. 3 troops in the U.S. troops, rather. 3 U.S. troops killed, dozens injured in Jordan. And that is the briefest explanations of this. With Luke Brox coming out here saying, "I don't recall Congress declaring war. Why do we have troops fighting in Jordan?" That's an interesting. Like me, and I am 100% anti-war. I don't care who the president is. I am anti-war first off and foremost. That is why I was so actively against Bush all the way back in the 2000s. And, well, before the 2000s, I couldn't really do anything about it because I didn't turn 18 until 2002. But my full stance on political parties, politics, government, etc. is anti-war, always has been anti-war. So that is going to affect the way that I look at a lot of these things here, and I always appreciated the fact that there was an anti-war bent that came with MAGA. I appreciated that a lot, because, well, it made the GOP at least stomachable for a while. That didn't last for very long, but it was at least stomachable for a little while. There have been other commentators that have pointed this out, though. Like Luke Brock says in the beginning here, we've got a situation where these people are out here in these war zone areas within reach of countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Russia. I don't think Putin is stupid enough to do that himself, but he's got proxies in the area to do so. These troops are within reach. So even if it's an accident or they're going after a completely different target that's not U.S. aligned, the fallout can kill people, and it does sound like that's what happened with this. Sometimes it is a matter of, you put your ass out there and say, "Hey, give it your best shot. I bet you can't hit there without hitting one of ours. And remember, if you hit one of ours, we're going to go to war." And I know there are a lot of people out there that are licking their chops for that. So that is what we have going on in the world. The last time Congress approved a war, I actually got in a debate about this, and I had to look this up. The last time Congress approved a war was Korea, which is actually still ongoing. It's the last congressionally declared war. A lot of people think it was Vietnam, and it was not. Vietnam was a military conflict, but it was not officially a declared war. And I had to look that up too because people thought that Korea was the same thing. No, Korea was a declared war. And before that, it was World War II. And the narrative actually was for quite a few years that it was World War II. So I looked it up, and no, Korea is a sanctioned congressional war. So the 50s. Just so you know. So that is what we have here. And the response. Insider paper, quoting from Sky News, which I have the article with us, of course. As early as tonight, President Biden will authorize U.S. military action in the Middle East, Sky News reports. Without a declaration of war. It's a military action. We don't have to do anything else about that. But let's read from Sky News. And I have some people that used to, especially when I was in the morning, who used to watch from Australia, who always pushed me to use Sky News. I like Sky News, by the way, a lot. Biden says U.S. will respond after 3 American troops are killed in drone attack in Jordan. We're going to pull out our handy-dandy map. My libertarian friends tell me we're not allowed to talk about any of these conflicts unless we can point to where we're looking at on a map. So then, one of the things that I want to do is I want to educate you guys. I got some new stories up here that we might actually have to go to as well, by the way. Because it looks like he's made a decision. So some of this might get pulled over here on the fly, but let's pull the map first. Just so we can have a look at where we're looking at here. So, Jordan is this region of the country right here. Part of this is in the Bible, actually. Because this was the region of Judea, if I remember correctly. I actually have a Bible atlas on the bookshelf over there that we could get out and we could really go look at what the map looks like and where we'd all be familiar with this. But yes, this is the area that was in here. Jordan controls a swath of territory on the far side of the mountains over here that form the eastern border of Israel. And then they've got just one little kick out going up in here, going towards Iraq, or again, if you're looking at the biblical aspect of things. So we are bordered over here by Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, obviously, which takes up the vast majority of the peninsula, or Asia Minor, whichever you want to call it, and just in general, a very, very big hotbed here. Now, if you are looking diplomatically around the world, Russia ally, U.S. ally on a very, very, very tenuous relationship right now. Russian ally, neutral, and U.S. ally. To give you an idea what's going on over there. That's what we're told by approved outlets. Can events be verified? Well, we can really only go by the records, unfortunately. Unless people were actually there, we can only go back by the records. And once we get back into the end of the 50s, we're starting to get to the point where people weren't there anymore. All right. Joe Biden has said, the U.S. shall respond after 3 American troops were killed and dozens more were injured in a drone strike on Saturday night in northeast Jordan, near the Syrian border. So, northeast, near the Syrian border. This region right here. The president blamed Iranian-backed militias for the first U.S. fatalities after months of strikes by groups against American forces across the Middle East. Mr. Biden, who was traveling in South Carolina on Sunday, asked for a moment of silence during an appearance at a Baptist church banquet hall. I wonder what his cardinal had to say about that. We had a tough day last night in the Middle East. Oh,
Well, we lost 3 more brave souls in an attack on one of our bases, man. And we shall respond. Come on, man.
As the risk of escalation in the region continues, U.S. officials are working to conclusively identify the group responsible for the attack, but they have ascertained one of several Iranian-backed groups was behind it. And, of course, Lindsey Graham had to get into that. There's the Mogwai right there. Yeah, we're less than 30 minutes in and we already have maps. Thursday show incoming. We're going to try not to have a Thursday show today. And it's not because I don't love doing that, but I have something else planned for Thursday for you guys. There is a Thursday show incoming, but it's something else entirely. So we are going to try to get through everything. We're going to stay on topic. We're going to get done. But yes, you see the top bar as much as everybody else does. I get that. As the risk of escalation in the region continues, U.S. officials are working to conclusively identify the group responsible for the attack, but they have ascertained one of several Iranian-backed groups was behind it. I'd love to see the intelligence behind that, because I know that there's been excuse after excuse searched for frantically to go into Iran. So far, one umbrella group, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, an Iranian-backed militia operating in Iraq and Syria, has claimed responsibility for the suicide drone attack. The group has claimed responsibility for dozens of attacks against bases housing U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria since the Israel-Hamas war began. Mr. Biden has said in a written statement the U.S. will hold all those responsible to account at a time and manner of our choosing. Yeah, that was the same response that you gave to Greg Abbott, and Greg Abbott told you to go and fuck yourself. I watched him do it. It was hilarious. Lloyd Austin said, "We will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S., our troops, and our interests." Mr. Biden's rival for the White House this year, Trump, said, "This brazen attack on the United States is yet another horrific and tragic consequence of Joe Biden's weakness and surrender. It's the worst. Joe Biden is the worst. I'm the best. Your favorite president, right here. Vote for me." UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron said, "We strongly condemn attacks by Iran-aligned militia groups against the U.S. forces. We continue to urge Iran to de-escalate in the region. Our thoughts are with those U.S. personnel who have lost their lives, and all those who have sustained injuries, as well as the families." So, that is the brunt of what's going on here. But since I did say something, we are going to have to look at this here. This is breaking at this point. Well, 5 hours ago breaking. I know I was spending so much time actually trying to get up and get everything prepped for what I found for the Texas side of things. I forgot to go look at the Biden stuff. So let's add this up to our stack for the day. Got to refresh this one because I don't think I have time to archive it. Come on. So we'll look at NPC News right now. Biden says he has decided on response to deaths of U.S. soldiers in Jordan. This was from 5 hours ago from NPC News. Summer Concepcion, Gabe Gutierrez, and Molly Recker reporting. President Biden said Tuesday that he's made a decision on how to respond to the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured dozens of others at a base in northeast Jordan. As Biden departed the White House on Tuesday, a reporter asked him whether he had made a decision in response to the attack by Iran-backed militants Sunday, and he said, "Yeah." Biden vowed on Sunday to retaliate and hold all those responsible to account at a time and a manner of our choosing, man. Come on. Asked whether he holds Iran responsible for the attack, he said he does, in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it, man. The attack led to the first U.S. deaths at the hands of Iranian-backed militant troops since the Israel-Hamas war began on October 7th. The explosives-laden drone blew up near a shelter where some troops slept at a logistics support base in northeast Jordan, 2 U.S. officials told NBC News. 8 of the injured were evacuated from the country to receive higher-level care and are stable, U.S. Central Command said on Sunday. Iran's mission to the UN denied the country's involvement in the drone strike. Iran had no connection and had nothing to do with the attack on the U.S. base, the mission said in a statement Monday, published by the state news agency IRNA, Reuters reports. There's a conflict between U.S. forces and resistance groups in the region, which reciprocate retaliatory attacks. You are also very well known, and again, I'm coming at this from an anti-war stance, but I will give the U.S. the benefit of the doubt and remind everybody that, yes, Iran does supply and try to destabilize the region, especially given the fact that the Abraham Accords put so much stability into there and made it hard for Iranian-backed groups to turn their ire towards Western countries. One from the Associated Press, while we're here, enemy drone that killed U.S. troops in Jordan was mistaken for a U.S. drone, preliminary report suggests. From Lolita C. Baldor, Amr Madani, and Zeke Miller. U.S. forces may have mistaken an enemy drone for an American one and let it pass unchallenged into a desert base in Jordan where it killed 3 U.S. troops and wounded dozens more, officials said. That's where we're getting to at this point. Details of the Sunday attack emerged as Biden faced a difficult balancing act, blaming Iran and looking to strike back in a forceful way without causing any further escalation of the Gaza conflict. Really? You don't want to cause an escalation of the Gaza conflict? You, Joe Biden? With defense contractor stocks? You don't want to cause an escalation of this? Really? As the enemy drone was flying at a low altitude, a U.S. drone was returning to the small installation known as Tower 22. According to a preliminary report cited by 2 officials who were not authorized to comment and insisted on anonymity. Hey, Mogwai, it's your cat! Anonymous sources. As a result, there was no effort to shoot down the enemy drone that hit the outpost, one of the trailers, where troops sleep sustained the brunt of the strike, while surrounding trailers got limited damage from the blast and flying debris. While there are no large air defense systems at Tower 22, the base does have counter-drone systems such as Coyote drone interceptors. But again, why did they not do anything about the fact? From the sounds of it, there had to be a major failure of intelligence, counterintelligence, or somebody giving details out to this. For them to know to try to fly a drone in while a friendly drone was trying to get in at the same time, so the drone intercept system would be down. Excuse me. I have a bad feeling about this. This is how Clancy novels start, by the way. And I don't know if you've ever read a Clancy novel, but this is the point where we get in. And then the next thing you know, we're standing at the brink of world war, if we're not into it already, depending on whether you're reading The Sum of All Fears or Red Storm Rising. Aside from the soldiers killed, the Pentagon said 40 troops were wounded in the attack, most with cuts and bruises of brain injuries and similar wounds. 8 were medically evacuated, including 3 who were going to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany. The other 5 who suffered minor traumatic brain injuries were expected to return to duty. So, we've got that going. Let's see, what else do we have here? This is the guy who's leading us to war. RNC Research. A very confused Joe Biden starts absolutely screaming as he recounts the recycled suckers and losers hoax, slurring the entire way. According to RNC Research, this is their quote, not mine, this man is not well. Let's listen.
Donald Trump, when he was commander-in-chief, refused to visit a cemetery, U.S. cemetery outside of Paris for fallen American soldiers. And he referred to those heroes, and I quote, as suckers and losers. He actually said that. He said that. How dare he say that?
No, he didn't.
How dare he talk about my son and all of us just like that? Donald Trump, when he was commander-in-chief.
That was a lie, number one. And number two, you're not supposed to be using an official speech as a campaign. I know they line campaigns all the time, and this goes right along with the same part of their campaign of, MAGA is the source of all your problems, man. Come on, vote for me. All right, what else do we have? I don't want to bore you to death with a lot of repeat off of this, so we are going to skip over some of this. WBAL 11 out of Baltimore. Defense Department identifies 3 U.S. soldiers killed in drone attack in Jordan. Natasha Bertrand, Oren Lieberman, Haley Britsky, and Michael Conti reporting. This is repost to WBAL TV from CNN. The 3 U.S. soldiers killed in the drone attack on a U.S. military outpost in Jordan were identified as Sergeant William Rivers, 46, of Carrollton, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, of Waycross, and Specialist Brianna Moffett of Savannah. All 3 of from Georgia, by the way, interestingly enough. They were all assigned to the 718th Engineer Company, a U.S. Army Reserve unit based out of Fort Moore, Georgia. That makes it even harder, too. They're reserves. They're not full-on, full-time soldiers. Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said at a briefing, more than 40 were injured in the attack, according to Singh, a number that could possibly increase. The drone hit a housing facility on the base where many service members were asleep in the early morning hours, leading to the high number of casualties, she said. And I will say, and probably stand against some of my more anti-war friends off of this, I will say F in the chat for these people. And my hearts go out to their families. They were following their orders. I know that their families probably didn't expect them to go over, especially in the reserves, and go die in a war. Or a military action, let's remind of that, as... I forgot your screen name already, I apologize. As Lunar Trees was talking about earlier, it's something that's not officially a war because we haven't done that since Korea. Sanders' parents told CNN's Erin Burnett they want their daughter to be remembered for her service, sacrifice, and how she lived. I just want people to remember that, even though her time was short on Earth, she lived her life to the fullest and enjoyed her life. In any situation that she was in, she made it enjoyable. Even being deployed, she found different things to pass her time, like learning a new language, practicing jujitsu, or crocheting, Oneida Oliver Sanders on Monday said on Out Front. Asked about a U.S. response to a deadly attack, Oliver Sanders said, "Whatever is decided will not ease our pain at any level. Kennedy still has battle buddies who are still left there. And I know if it was her decision, she would definitely be very concerned about their safety. So, whatever happens won't change our situation at all." That is a very measured response, by the way. For a parent who just lost a daughter, that is a very measured response. I appreciate that a lot. I love my parents very, very much. But I know full well that if I had been deployed and been one of the people sleeping in that barracks, my mom and dad would be calling for Iran to be glassed over right now. I'm very positive of that. So, those are the people who lost their lives on that. That's some tinfoil there, Lunar Trees. I don't disagree with that entirely, but I try to stay out of that region for contemporary. I've talked about stuff like that on other talk shows, though, before, so I'm not completely against the idea either. Let's see, we did that one. Mistaken for U.S. drone. Biden says Iran-backed militia behind drone strike. Read that already. Axios, here's one for you. War pressure grows as Biden plans military response to deadly Jordan attack. From Barack Ravid, Andrew Solender, and David Lawler over at Axios. President Biden and other top U.S. officials discussed Sunday a significant military response against pro-Iranian militias over the drone attack near the Syrian border that killed 3. Why it matters, the White House and Pentagon are hoping to calibrate their retaliation to contain a growing risk of a regional war. In spite of the fact that we're like one stray bomb away from that. But pressure for more significant action is brewing on Capitol Hill, with hawks pushing for strikes inside Iran. And our president is one of them, by the way. Driving the news, we don't want war, but those who are behind this attack need to feel our response, a U.S. official told Axios on Sunday evening. An anonymous source. Reminder. Georgia to be a global hub. I've been to Georgia a few times. I like it. There have been more than 150 attacks targeting U.S. troops in the region since the Israel-Hamas war, many of them by pro-Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria. U.S. officials said Sunday they were still working to determine exactly who launched the drone that hit the U.S. base and whether it was launched from Iraq or Syria. Several more high-level meetings about the response took place Sunday in addition to the one Biden took part in, the sources said. What they're saying, while the Biden admin is preparing to hit Iran's proxies, Republican hawks are pushing Biden to hit Iran directly. Of course, they had to say. That's those evil Republicans. We've got one of their exes right here. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the turtle, called for serious and crippling cost to Iran, not only on frontline terrorist proxies, but in their Iranian sponsors who wear American blood as a badge of honor. Tom Cotton says the only answer to these attacks must be devastating military retaliation against Iran's terrorist forces both in Iran and across the Middle East. Anything less will confirm Joe Biden is a coward unworthy of being commander-in-chief. I'm pretty sure that Greg Abbott took care of that last week. I hate to tell you this, I'm pretty sure Greg Abbott put that impression in everybody's mind. Lindsey Graham! Senator Lindsey Graham called on Biden to strike targets of significance in Iran. And not only that, but we'll skip ahead a couple tabs here with a one-sentence X over on X. Hit Iran! Hit them hard, sugar! And he's got a lengthy thread on this one too, but it's this last one here that seems to have everybody talking. But Lindsey Graham being a miserable fucking war hawk is nothing new by any stretch of the imagination. And John Cornyn of Texas tweeted, "Target Tehran," later specifying he was calling for strikes against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So, the government. Now, Cornyn is trying to convince you that he's not talking about going after Iran itself, and its people, and its civilian, and its government, but the IRGC is a government agency. So, we have that going on. But thankfully, we actually have some level heads prevailing. God, I can't believe I'm saying that about Washington, D.C. NPC News, lawmakers press Biden to get Congress's approval for Middle East airstrikes, which means that it's not going to happen. Actually, it might. There's a possibility it does. Because the populist side is split far enough that they might go for it. And drop that just a little bit here. Looking over at the monitor, seeing where that's bouncing, like, yeah, let's take that down just a little bit. From Scott Wong and Katie Santalese. As he orders airstrikes in a growing Middle East conflict, President Biden faces fresh demands that he ask Congress to vote on a new authorization for military action before he proceeds further. Yeah, I'd like that. And I'd like everybody to petition their congresspeople to say, hey, Joe, let's not do this. Those calls are, however, falling on deaf ears. Well, they're not falling on deaf ears. They're falling on Alzheimer's adult ears. With the White House insisting that the Commander-in-Chief already has approval to carry out the airstrikes from 2 authorizations for use of military force, or AUMF, votes more than 20 years ago in the wake of the terrorist attacks of September 11th. Well, given the fact that they're 20 years old, hey, we've had the makeup of Congress change 7 times in 20 years. Maybe it's time for a new vote, you guys. This month, Biden ordered airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen, who have launched attacks on ships in the Red Sea, as well as Iran-affiliated militia groups that have attacked U.S. personnel and facilities in Iraq and Syria. House and Senate lawmakers will receive a number of classified briefings about the deadly attack this week. Biden's vow comes just days after a bipartisan group of senators sent a letter urging him to come to Congress before he undertakes any further military actions. The letter came from a fairly mixed group, too, by the way. I was impressed to see this. Tim Kaine, D. Virginia, Todd Young, R. Indiana, Chris Murphy, D. Connecticut, and Mike Lee, R. Utah, condemning the Houthi attacks and blaming the group and their backers, namely Iran, for escalating the situation in the Middle East. But, they said, unless there's a need to repel a sudden attack, the Constitution requires that the U.S. not engage in military action absent a favorable vote from Congress. Yes, please. Meanwhile, the Donald. Sometimes I wonder if this guy knows that he's not helping. Trump blames Biden's weakness and surrender for deadly drone attack that killed U.S. troops. That's not going to keep him from hauling off and launching a military strike. In fact, that might encourage him to do so, pitting us into a major world war. Miranda Nazaro reporting. Former President Trump on Sunday argued President Biden's weakness and surrender is to blame for the deadly drone attacks in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. service members. Which I don't disagree with that either, by the way. I don't think that the former president is far off when he says this, but can we at least wait until he makes the decision to go to Congress and get authorization before we basically stand at the edge and say, hey, you won't do it, no balls. Trump, in a post on Truth Social, weighed in on what he called the brazen drone attack in Jordan on Saturday that killed 3 U.S. troops and wounded at least 24 others. The drone attack on a U.S. military installation in Jordan, killing 3 great American service members and wounding many more, marks a horrible day for America. My most profound sympathies go to the families of the brave service members that we have lost. I ask all Americans to join me in praying for those who have wounded. This brazen attack on the U.S. is yet another horrific and tragic consequence of Joe Biden's weakness and surrender, he continued. Trump's attack on Biden came just hours after the president announced the strike, which marks the first time since U.S. service members have been killed by enemy combatants in the Middle East since the onset of Israel's war with militant Palestinian group Hamas. Again, I appreciate, and I don't disagree. I think that Biden is a horrible foreign policy leader, and he's part of the reason of the destabilization around the world. But now is also not the time to stand at the edge of the cliff and scream into the Grand Canyon where it'll echo back out, no balls! Alright, we got the Lindsey Graham tweet. A little bit of infighting on the GOP side. Fucking lunatics. Deadly Jordan attack spur open GOP feud from Politico. Anthony Adranya reporting. Iran-based attacks in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. service members are intensifying the growing GOP divide over national security, as senior Hill Republicans calling for immediate retaliation clash with Trump-style isolationists. And that's where the problem lies. That's part of the reason I never became a Republican in my life. I flirted with it a little bit, and I actually said that I was for a little bit in my 20s, but I've always been anti-war. Always. That has been my first and foremost position. And I know that half the GOP members have their fingers and their portfolios so deep in Boeing and Raytheon, which I can't really talk about that because as soon as Joe Biden got elected, I bought several $100s worth of Raytheon stock and Boeing stock and Northrop Grumman stock. You can see why. While former President Trump himself gave a measured response to the attacks. What? Again, I go back to the last article that I read and remind you that he's standing out into the open and yelling, "No balls." Influential conservative voice Tucker Carlson called the 2 senators who pushed for a swift U.S. military response against Iran after the attack fucking lunatics in a post on X. Carlson trained his ire against Lindsey Graham, who called for the U.S. to hit Iran, sugar, hit it hard. And no, I did double check into this and fact check this. Iran is not the name of his male concubine and male Senate aide. He was actually talking about the country. And Cornine, who posted "Target Tehran" before clarifying it was not a call to bomb Iranian civilians. John, do you know who lives in Tehran? The response to the attacks in Jordan reflects the escalating feud between the GOP's more traditional foreign policy hawks, or as I call them, war pigs, and its ascendant isolationist-leaning wing, even as both sides coalesce around Trump's bid to return to the White House. And it comes as the latter group, urged on by Trump and wary of prolonged foreign entanglements, has grown more emboldened. Many in that camp have fought for months against sending more cash to Ukraine in its war against Russia, with a foreign aid package still delayed as money has dried up. It's unclear how many of them will fight against further involvement in Iran. Trump slammed the attacks on his Truth Social platform, and it underscored President Biden's weakness as commander-in-chief, but notably didn't endorse any particular response. Well, he also is not in a position to do anything about that, keep in mind. Just a brief one here, and then we will move on and talk about the other war, the Civil War, that was brought into this. What history says about Biden's power to strike back against the Houthis. Joshua Zeitz reporting. Is a U.S. president in his capacity as commander-in-chief authorized to order military strikes against a foreign enemy, or must he first seek congressional approval? The question has been top of mind since Biden authorized precision strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen earlier this month. And politicians at either end of the ideological spectrum in Congress have answers, just not very good ones. This is an unacceptable violation of the Constitution, tweeted Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Marjorie Taylor Greene weighed in as well, tweeting that the president must come to Congress for permission before going to war. Biden cannot solely decide to bomb Yemen. In their criticisms of Biden, liberal and conservative lawmakers have cited Article 1, which vests Congress, not the president, with the power to declare war. But the Houthi situation is not so simple. In the modern era, presidents of both parties have exercised wide latitude in their position as commander-in-chief in order to order limited or targeted military strikes against hostile actors. Donald Trump ordered strikes in Syria. Barack Obama did the same in Libya, among other countries. W authorized drone strikes in Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia, and so on, and so on, and well, so on. Even going back over 200 years, the Founding Fathers grappled with the question of the Commander-in-Chief's defensive capabilities, and while they have competing visions of the executive's powers, they ultimately reached a consensus that Jayapal Green and others will find inconvenient. While originalism is hardly the legal gold standard that conservative jurists claim, playing by originalist rules, history suggests Biden is operating within the limits of the Constitution's framers anticipated, just as Thomas Jefferson did when he faced an earlier generation of pirates. So, I will weigh in on this, because we're not going to go down the entire article with this, but I'm going to weigh in on this. Legally speaking, Biden is within his powers to do so, to do a retaliatory strike if he can locate the actual group that did so. He can actually put limited boots on the ground going into, if they're saying it came out of pull the map back up here. If they're saying that it came out of Iraq or Saudi Arabia, as they're trying to tell us here, he could put boots on the ground in a limited fashion into these regions to go hunt out the group itself that did so. What Biden does not have the power to do is what Cornine said, and to take both an airstrike and then an occupying force into Tehran. W was able to sidestep partially with authorization of use of force, bypassing the congressional role of Congress, but also by addressing it not as an actual occupying war and conflict, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, but as a contractor and military advisement to help rebel groups take over these regions. Rebel groups, of course, evacuating Saddam Hussein's leadership, and then also the rebel groups trying to take out the Taliban's leadership in Kabul. That's the way that they got around there. But to go down John Cornine's route, no, he would need congressional approval to do that. To both bomb a civilian target, which, whether or not, Cornine specifies that he only wants the military guard. You're not going to be in a situation where if you're bombing densely populated Tehran as a capital, where you're not going to take civilian casualties with you. And then also taking the occupying force that you'd be necessary to prevent a retaliatory strike coming back against you or your allies, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Lebanon. So that is where his power lies. And he does have powers beyond what, like, Jayapal and Marjorie Taylor Greene pointed out, but he can't go as far as to put the entire might of the United States Army into Persia. So that is what we have for that. And, well, that's our World War III report. And just think, Nikki Haley could be the next one to take this over. God, that puts a shiver down my spine. Oh. It's bad when I would rather have Trump spending than have Nikki Haley into that office, anywhere close to that office. But I was vocal about the fact that it was a bad idea when they sent her to the UN to be their ambassador. Like, why are you putting the biggest war hawk in modern politics as your UN ambassador? Are you out of your fucking mind? And maybe he is. Or maybe he's good at portraying the fact that he is, and that's why nobody wanted to fuck with us for those years that he was in office. Only the people within our country. Now let's go talk about what's happening in our neck of the woods, to quote Al Roker. Starting with one from CBS News. Texas doubles down in unprecedented border dispute with federal government. Yeah. Biden said, hey, you let us take this back over and cut down the razor wire, or we're going to take appropriate actions. And, well, Abbott didn't even get up. He just sat there and said, okay, bitch, bring it. The unprecedented standoff between the state of Texas and federal government at the southern border continues. CBS News Texas sat down with the North Texas immigration attorney Jaime Vasquez to break down what it all means and what could happen next. We've never seen the point that we have right now, said immigration attorney Jaime Vasquez. Never to the point to where we have the Texas National Guard agents from DPS basically blocking the entrance and taking authority or control over the border. On Monday, the Supreme Court said the federal government has the authority to remove razor wire that Texas installed at the southern border. Homeland Security said Texas had until Friday to give federal authorities access to Eagle Pass, but Governor Abbott is doubling down, saying he'll increase state patrol of the border, adding more barriers and more razor wires. So, the Supreme Court said it's legal to cut the razor wire down, but they never said that Texas can't go put more of it back up. I read the reading, it's very narrow. It's just that if they can get in there, they can cut it down. And then Greg Abbott can send people in there right behind it and put twice as much back up. We're at a very critical issue right now because we're testing really the essence of the Republic of the U.S. and whether or not the Supreme Court has authority, whether states have to abide or find a way to interpret it in the way that they want, said Vasquez. On Friday, AG Paxton refused the federal government's request for access to the border, based, and demanded proof that the federal government has the authority to turn a Texas park into a port of entry. Especially when there's a port of entry 1,000 feet next to it. And I'm dead serious. We looked at the map last week. We're going to look at the map again, actually. Let's see. Let's open this up in maps. Bring this over here. There's your port of entry right there. Well, technically it's back here, but technically your port of entry is right here. But the actual opening in the fence is right here. Here's where the park is. Why do they need another port of entry? There's one literally right here. With a bridge and border patrol. It's right there. Vasquez says we'll have to wait and see who takes action next. If the federal government backs down from this, they completely lose the authority they have on the Supreme Court precedent, said Vasquez. Well, that's not the worst thing in the world. 25 Republican governors are backing Abbott's stance. They say that Texas has the constitutional right to self-defense. Governor Abbott says he believes those states would be willing to send troops to the border if needed. So, the lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick, says Texas will not stop putting up razor wire on border after Supreme Court ruling. The Hill's Nick Robertson reporting. Somebody's up to something, not sounding right. Well, yeah, there's that. Feds have two jobs and failing at both. Why not addressed? Honk honk. Dan Patrick said Monday the state will continue to build razor wire and other fencing around the U.S.-Mexico border despite a Supreme Court order last week, allowing federal law enforcement to tear down state-erected barriers. We're putting up wire, Martha, everywhere we can, he told Fox News' Martha McCallum on Monday. We will continue, we will not stop. If they cut it, we will replace it, which is in their purview, by the way. Patrick threatened a confrontation with state authorities if the Biden admin sent Border Patrol to remove the barriers. I was down there Friday with our troops and thanked them, support them, and also to stand with them. In the event Biden admin did send Border Patrol down there, he said wisely they did not. We're thankful they did not. We don't want a confrontation, but we want this border secure. Now, a reminder, there are a lot of people out there who want this confrontation, and not all of them are good actors. If you're in a Discord server somewhere, if you're on X somewhere and you get a random message from somebody, hell, this could even start happening in real life somewhere, where somebody says that your only course of action is to go down to the border yourself, grab your rifle, your own personal rifle, and go down there and show the U.S. government what you're made of. Do not go. It is a trap. And I've always been open and vocal about this. While I appreciate that people want to go back and help dismantle parts of the federal government, you're going to do much better at home, on turf that you know. Now, if you're down in Texas, that is between you and the Texas National Guard. They might try to enlist you, and that's within their purview as a citizen of their state. But I would stick with that course of action rather than just going and running in there in your Walmart night vision goggles and your AR-15. Trust me on that one. We'll be talking a little bit more about that later. Greg Abbott claimed last week the state has the right to fight off an invasion and the state authority supersedes federal law. It does, by the way. Some Democrats have called on Biden to nationalize the Texas National Guard and force it to tear down state barriers and enforce federal access to the border. GOP governors from about 24 states have backed Abbott, showing support and criticizing the court's ruling. Well, he actually can't do that. So, without Greg Abbott's approval. Just so you know. I said the last one was a not helping thing. This one actually is kind of a helping thing. But Trump praises Texas governor as border state clashes with Biden admin over immigration. Jonathan J. Cooper and Adriana Gomez-Licon reporting. Former President Trump lavished praise Saturday on Texas Governor Greg Abbott for not allowing the Biden admin entry to remove razor wire in a popular corridor for migrants illegally entering the U.S. in an escalating feud over immigration, which again, I don't understand why this is such a big problem. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about an if this was me moment here. I do not intend to ever be a criminal migrant anywhere, or even a criminal at this point. If I ever were to be a criminal, it's always funny because George Carlin brought this up and pointed this out very, very well. If I was a criminal and I escaped from prison, because that's one of the first things that people say if you want to build a prison in their area. Well, what's going to happen if a prisoner escapes and he gets out? He'll threaten my family. Dude, if I were to be in prison for whatever reason and I escaped, I am not going to hang around outside the wall of that prison. I'm telling you right off the bat. I might take your car, but I am not going to hurt your family. Because my first thought is going to be getting as far away from that prison as I possibly can. You know why? Because they're going to be looking for me at the prison. Although, after listening to a lot of country music in the early 2000s, I think if I did go to prison, I would do whatever it was that I could to be the guy that takes care of the tracking the dogs. Partially because I like dogs, and partially because, well, you don't need to know the rest of that. Because you might be the warden one day. You don't need to know the rest of that plan. But it's the same thing. Why, in God's name, would you cross here? I understand that right now they are neutered by the Biden admin. But the Border Patrol's right fucking there. You're coming in here. The people that are going to hunt you down start right here. Does this not make any sense to anybody else other than me? Am I the only one who gets this? In a speech focused overwhelmingly on border security, Trump said Texas should be given full support in its measures to deter migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border. The state is restricting the U.S. Border Patrol after the Supreme Court cleared the way for these agents to cut or remove the sharp metal barrier. When I'm president, instead of trying to send Texas a restraining order, I will send them reinforcements. Trump told a crowd of supporters in Vegas, where he rallied on the indoor soccer field in a largely Latino neighborhood. Instead of fighting border states, I will use every resource, tool, and authority of the U.S. president to defend the U.S. from this horrible invasion that's taking place right now. Which is on the front of a lot of people's minds, so this is the right way for him to go. Until we're allowed to have A-10s and F-16s, it's pointless. But in probably one of the funnier parts, and the brunt of things I like today have to do with the memes that spawn from this. Rep. Robert Garcia, the Donald Trump and MAGA plan for the border, alligator moats, bombing northern Mexico, shooting migrants in the legs and electrifying the fence and putting spikes in them. Well, other than bombing a foreign country, is this real? Can you show me documentation of this? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not planning on voting for anybody in the next election. But, I mean, alligator moats, you might get my vote for that one. It's a possibility. Let's listen to the clip.
I will not yield. I want to remind the public that Donald Trump and House Republicans also have their own...
Apologize for the low audio on
Let's
this.
review the majority's border ideas that they've actually presented. Here they are. Donald Trump actually has said that he wants to build alligator moats along the border. That's one of his incredible ideas. Another idea that Donald Trump has promoted is...
Will they be Florida Gators by any chance? I bet you Ron DeSantis would get on board with that. Plus, it would bring industry into a state.
He actually wants to electrify the border fence and maybe even put some spikes on the border. That's another Donald Trump and MAGA majority border idea. Another idea, which I'm not sure how well it would go, is he wants to actually bomb northern Mexico with missiles. That's another Trump idea. And finally, I think one of the ones that I think is the most grotesque is suggestions that instead we should maybe just shoot migrants in the legs as they cross the border. So once again, the Donald Trump and MAGA plan is alligator moats, bombing northern Mexico, shooting migrants in the legs, and electrifying the fence and putting spikes on them.
As you probably guessed, a lot of the comments in this, especially being Greg Price is a right-wing commentator, are, I already support Trump, no need to sweeten the deal. Those options all do the job. He forgot the sharks with laser beams. I like that, by the way. I don't believe that MAGA is actually going to do this either. But it's fun to listen to them go after that like that. All right, what else do we have? I got some video for this one here. Short one. Minute and a half. New immigration border security legislation could be on the way from CBS News out of Texas. Let's listen.
In the coming days, we could learn more about new immigration and border security legislation.
Yeah, it comes after weeks of negotiations between lawmakers and the White House. Lauren Crawford's live in studio this morning to break down what we know about this potential bill. Good morning, Lauren.
Hey, good morning. Well, if passed, it would be the first major immigration overhaul since the 1990s. However, the potential bill is already facing opposition from former President Donald Trump and some of his allies in Congress as immigration continues to be be a top issue on the 2024 campaign trail. So far we've learned the bill could give the Biden administration the authority to pause asylum processing during spikes in migrant crossings. A deal could also shorten the time for immigration officials to decide asylum cases and raise the standards for asylum interviews. President Biden backed the potential bill at a campaign stop in South Carolina over the weekend, while former President Donald Trump has come out against it.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly.
I'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. A bad bill you can't have.
Now, meanwhile, the convoy happening today comes after the Supreme Court's ruling to allow.
All right, let's talk about this. Now, one of the first things, of course, we keep getting pointers that there was a border security bill that was shut down. Well, that border security bill had $5.8 billion allocated for Ukraine in it. Also, that was the pork barrel that was in all of this. But we've even got quotes coming off of this from Biden himself. Go a little bit out of order here.
Not all I can do. Give me the power. The very day I got in office, give me the border patrol. Give me the people. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work right.
Well, the problem is you've actually got the power, and you've got the funding too. The problem that I have a lot with this, and a lot of people are pointing out with this as well, is the fact that you've actually already got this authority based on congressional standards and the Constitution. And there's plenty of money out there. If you need to pull from military discretionary spending, you could stop fighting wars all across the rest of the world to do so. But I mean, it comes down to enforcing the laws on the books that are already there. That's the first part of it. It's the same thing when we go through this mass shooting that we hear, and we're probably going to hear a lot more this year as well. The people who commit these mass shootings typically, on average, broke at least one law just in getting the guns if they were on the FBI's radar already, or in some cases were already criminal, awaiting trial or otherwise. They passed the background check because the laws weren't enforced the way that they were there. Enforce the laws that we have before we go ask for new ones. Fox News. Oh, this is with a video. Never mind, that one's going away. But we do have 25 states now on board, as they said earlier. Iowa being one of the last holdouts coming in saying, yes, we support Texas in all this. With Slate being one of the first people standing against this, GOP governors invoke Confederate theory of secession to justify border violations. Thank you, Slate. But we all knew this was going to come already. Like, this is not a secret at this point. Our friends on the left have gone to extensive lengths to try to link secession with slavery because they want you to think that anybody who's going to secede from this nation is going to go straight to slavery. Let's see. Fake invasion like J6 to cause more unrest. Maybe. AI generated. Maybe. Ukraine. I don't think Ukraine was fake. I just don't think what's happening in Ukraine is how it was presented to us. I still think, to this day, that Ukraine was a matter of the Donbass region wanted to secede from Kiev. And Kiev said no, so they petitioned Russia to help them secede. Because you'll notice they never go beyond the Dnipro River. They've launched a couple missiles into the area, but for the most part, as far as troops go, they did one quick end run towards Kiev and then stopped. And then from that point on, all the fighting has gone from Kharkiv down to Kherson and nowhere else. I think this is a secession dispute more than anything else. And I think a part of it is because Ukraine doesn't want to give up Zaporizhzhia or Mariupol. All right, what else do we have? We've got the Hill. Texas's Abbott is encouraging criminals, white extremists, to come to the border, Latino rights group says. Okay, let's hear what you have to say. I think it's going to be a bunch of crap. But let's hear what you have to say. I'm willing to hear you out. Rafael Bernal reporting. The country's oldest Latino civil rights group on Monday accused Abbott of inciting extremists to commit acts of violence amid escalating tensions between Texas and the federal government over border management. League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, National President Domingo Garcia warned that Abbott's rhetoric could incite violent bigots like the shooter who killed 23 people and injured 22 others in El Paso in Walmart in 2019. Uncomfortable truth, that guy was a registered Democrat. False and insightful political rhetoric from Governor Abbott is agitating people to possibly commit acts of violence and mass murder. We urge our members, especially those in Texas, to be on alert for armed, out-of-state extremists with a hate agenda, said Garcia in a statement. Yeah, make sure that you're not seeing them all show up in fairly recent model Chevrolet Suburbans. Black in color. It's fear porn. It's all fear porn. And again, if somebody does invite you to go down to Texas to show your support for Abbott or your disdain for the federal government, don't go. Don't go anywhere near that. Well, the thing with Mexico, Lunar Tree has asked, those countries are not concerned with taxpayers leaving in droves, is that our border is kind of a, how do I put this? It's kind of a political relief valve. One of the things that was pointed out very early on in the Trump administration was the fact that Mexico has been due for a revolution for a long, long time. There's a lot of corruption in the government. There's a lot of overlap with the government and the mafia that runs a lot of the drugs through the city, or through the country rather. And it is bad for a lot of the citizens down there. That's why a lot of our manufacturing goes down there, because they can pay pennies on the dollar down there to factory workers, and they think that they're living high on the hog by that. So when a bunch of the more agitated ones go up to the border and say, I'm going for a better life, rather than going and try to fix their own country, start a revolution down there, that's their political relief valve. And we're at this point. From Fox News, Texas-bound Take Our Border Back convoy to shed light on migrant crisis, send a message to leaders. From Sarah Rump-Witten. And, as usual, government agencies with 3 letters already have people getting CDLs, if they even need them, if they work for the government, which I don't think you do. But they're getting CDLs, and they're outfitting that Peterbilt with the big chrome stacks. That big 379, look how cool that is. I'm putting Confederate flags on there. And they'll be traveling along with the Freedom Convoy. And yelling a certain word that starts with an S and a P that I can't say on YouTube. Or Twitch, for that matter. Talking into the wrist saying, yeah, I think I got the group to chant the S word with me. Get the news cameras on them quickly. Look, I like the fact that these people want to do this. These truckers want to do this. But when you come out and you make it public like this, whether it's grassroots or not, when you make it public like this, you got a guy sitting in the next truck over, and he's ready to get on that CB. He has been listening to the song Convoy for the last 2 months because he wants to learn the lingo, and he wants to get out and say, yeah, Breaker 19. Hey, Jethro. I mean Scarecrow. I didn't mean to use your real name on the radio here. Hey, you see that Suburban? I bet you can bullseye that with your rig. I'll bet you $20 you can bullseye that with your rig. You won't do it, no balls. Come back. And then he goes back and he talks on his wrists again, and he says, yeah, the International 9900 with the Confederate flag in the windows. He is definitely going for your vehicle. Get out of your vehicle now. But make sure that the camera is trained on there so they can see the moment that he rams the vehicle. And if you are going to go on to a trucker protest like this, that's one thing that you need to keep in mind. Number one, the banks are going to freeze your bank account because the news media is going to call it all a hate group. And yes, banks on our side of the border were doing this with the Canadian protest. And you have got to be on your best behavior while you're down there. Because there are going to be people among the crowd with you who are going to start screaming the N-word as loud as they can. The Mogwai says, Breaker, Jimmy, come back to me. Your earbud is showing in the driver cam. And the other point of contention with this, when we have to take our border back, is where the framing comes from. Louisville Lagoon says, so my previous post about don't head down to Texas to get your militia LARP on has resulted in a whole lot of glow boys or morons in my mentions. Let's have a discussion about this with examples. Remember the famous image and the outrage that it caused. And I'm not going to go down his full discussion on this, but I will point out that he's right. They're looking for anything that they can do to come back out and try to frame the people who are doing this as the white supremacists, the evil hate monger, anything. This was an idle rein on a split rein horse that just happened to twirl down towards the back of a migrant, and they called that a whip. They said that this Border Patrol agent was whipping these Haitians with malice. That is a rein, that is not a whip. And they'll do it again. This was a uniformed CBP agent who got put through the ringer, not because he actually did anything wrong, but because it looked like he did. This was a media firestorm with every level of elected official condemning it from Biden on down. So, keep that in mind where you do. Dick Durbin, this is an older post, but something to keep in mind. One of the incentives that they had, Dick Durbin has a bill to turn illegal immigrants into soldiers in the U.S. Army.
Yeah. What troubles me about the debate now about the southern border is it is one half of the immigration equation. Yes, we need order at the border. Yes, we need to have changes in the laws that reflect the reality of the overwhelming numbers from all over the world who are coming to our shores and our border. But there is also an incredible demand for legal immigration into this country even now. The presiding officer, my colleague from the state of Illinois, has legislation which addresses one aspect of that. Her bill, and I hope I describe it accurately, says that if you're an undocumented person in this country and you can pass the physical and the required test, background test, the like, you can serve in our military, and if you do it honorably, we will make you citizens of the United States. Do we need that?
Wasn't there a literary line about that at some point? Oh yeah, it's from the book that I'm currently reading, Starship Troopers. Service guarantees citizenship. I'm not going to show, obviously, because I have rules against showing or screenshotting anything from my Discord, but one of my members pointed out in the Biden clip, actually, the one that we watched earlier, where Biden demanded more judges, Border Patrol agents, and money for this. He pointed something out that I didn't point out before, and that is they said the border was secure until like 2 weeks ago. Now they suddenly need new executive authority over the border. They did. Putz is right. They absolutely said over and over again, why are you even complaining about the border? The border is secure. We have the most secure border in history. See, all those people that are getting caught with a fentanyl, that means they're getting caught. Our border is secure. What more do you want, MAGA? Until like 2 weeks ago. Now they're saying they need more executive authority. Thank you, Putz, for that, by the way. I don't know if you'll see this or not, but that is a fantastic point to go on with this. Lunar Tree says, oh yeah, GIs and lot will have everything identified. And Mogwai says, he said whip it. Whip it good. More people, of course, calling for the bombing of American citizens. Gene Wu, a sitting representative from Texas, quote tweeting a statistic: the 10 states with the most guns per capita are Montana, 66.4% of adults; Wyoming, 66% of adults; Alaska, 64.5% of adults; Idaho, 60.1%. I don't know why Texas isn't anywhere close to the top of this list, by the way. You get a goddamn 45 in the cereal box in Texas. West Virginia, 58.5% of adults. Arkansas, 57.2% of adults. Mississippi, 56.3% of adults. Alabama, 55.2% of adults. South Dakota, 55.1% of adults. And North Dakota, 55% even of adults. All 10 of these states support the Texas border resistance against the federal government. And Gene Wu, a sitting state rep for Texas, says it's all fun and games until someone eats a drone-fired Hellfire missile. So that is one elected representative who is willing to turn bombs against his own citizenry. Texas, if you're in this person's representative district, vote accordingly. So this was an interesting one. Let's pull this back out here. Colin Rugg says, just in, MSDNC host Joy Reid gets caught cursing on a hot mic while playing a clip of Biden saying he would close the border if Congress unlocks more money to Ukraine. If that bill were law today, I'd shut the border down right now and fix it quickly. Before the clip of Biden finished, Reid was heard saying, starting another fucking war. Let's listen. Kind of want to hear this one.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war. Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take...
Hold on, is that real?
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war.
And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war.
And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war.
That's amazing. Holy shit. Like, I knew it was in there. I just didn't know it was that out loud and clear. How does Joy Reid still have a job after that? Because didn't Tony Stewart get fined like $100,000 for dropping the word shit after a NASCAR race? And this was in early 2000s. Obviously, because Tony Stewart was still driving. The Mogwai says, somewhere DeSantis is jerking off to bombing the border. It's probably in the same room as Nikki Haley, if you want that image in your mind. Lunar Tree says, why does Georgia have the most counties behind Texas? I don't know how that all got apportioned, but that's, like, for Georgia, that is pre-revolutionary as well. So that's something I would look into. That's actually something I'm curious about. I didn't know that was the case. I know that there's no Run County, Georgia, because I was trying to find where the Watermelon Festival was. Or Ryan County it was, not Run County. It sounds like Run County when he's singing it, but in the sanctioned lyrics on A to Z Lyrics, it's Ryan County. I saw a homemade sign written in red, Ryan County Watermelon Festival ahead. So we've got a little bit of retaliation here, and I think this is about where we're done with this one. Oh, I got one more after this. Biden hits pause on approval of liquefied natural gas exports. Now, this would normally be on a separate occasion, but liquefied natural gas is one of the chief exports of Texas. And this happened on Saturday. After Abbott gave him the finger. I don't know if this is related or not. I will let you make that decision. Rebecca Shabbat and Denise Chow reporting. The Biden admin is pausing approvals of pending applications for LNG to countries with which the U.S. does not have a free trade agreement, citing environmental concerns related to climate change as a key reason for the move. Yeah, that's what it is. One of the cleanest gases out there with the lowest emissions footprint. That just happens to be the chief export of the state you're fighting with. While the temporary halt is in effect, the Energy Department is expected to evaluate and update the guidance used to make authorizations. The White House said in a fact sheet Friday the economic and environmental analyses that the department currently uses are about 5 years old. They no longer adequately account for the considerations like potential energy cost increases for American consumers and manufacturers beyond current authorizations or the latest assessment of the impact of greenhouse gas emissions. The White House says that is one of the cheapest gases that you can get. This is retaliation. 100%. Wait, I told you guys I wasn't going to say that for sure. And let you decide. The Mogwai says, somehow I think between drinking and driving and watermelon crawling, the DUI is way less painful. Now, I still encourage you. If you drink, don't drive. Do the watermelon crawl. Fruity drink hangovers suck. We're going to find more about that later on in the week. Stay tuned. LNG is a natural gas that has been cooled to a liquid state to allow for shipping and storage. According to the Energy Department, any companies that want to export natural gas are required to obtain authorization from the Department's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. Again, chief export of the state that you're fighting with. Good luck. I do want to... There's one more that I want to do before we move on to talk about the sister wife. Is this post here that came out in the midst of the entire fight. Charlotte Clymer, who is one of the foremost thinkers on the left apparently, says something that I found interesting. It might give us an actual idea inside of what the left-wing brain thinks of the people who are coming in, whether they intend to do it or not. Charlotte Clymer says, why is it okay for undocumented migrants to harvest most of our food for us because the average American is too lazy to do so, but it's not okay for those migrants and their families to seek a better life here while they're feeding us? Can anybody adequately answer that? Which is something that I brought forward, but I mean, this is a person who's coming out right out and admitting the fact that they're importing a slave class for the work that they don't want to do. And I responded to this and I said the same thing. I said, well, the reason I don't think it's okay for undocumented immigrants to harvest more of our food for us because the average American is too lazy to do so. Because I don't believe in slavery. I don't believe in importing a slave class of people who cannot demand a better wage without fear of being deported. I don't believe in that. I would rather American citizens harvest that food. If you want to know the long and short of it. But you, Charlotte Clymer, are going to do this while you tweet about the fact that everybody needs to have a living wage, except for these people who harvest most of your food for you because the average American is too lazy to do so. Alright, let's talk about the sister wife. End wokeness over on Twitter. Her ex says, Ilhan Omar tells a crowd of Somalians that her top priority is to put Somalia first and expand its territory. Which is an interesting take for a sitting member of Congress.
Annaga haddii aan nahay dad Soomaali ah, waxaan nahay dad isjecel.
These areas of friction and that led us to kill each other, but in reality we're an organized society. She's saying this in Somali, by the way. Brothers and sisters, people of the same blood, people who know that they are Somalians first, Muslims second, who protect one another, come to each other's aid and to the aid of other Muslims too. A couple days ago we heard some people who call themselves Somalis or claim to be Somalis have signed with an MOU with Ethiopia on access to the sea. I do not even know what an MOU is. Oh yeah, an agreement. I'm sorry, my grasp of the Somali language is atrocious. What a shame. I again am uncomfortable. Many Somalians have personally called me to encourage me to speak to the U.S. government to thwart the MOU and help Somalia. They wanted to know that the U.S. government could help. Okay, that's too fast for me. My answer to Somalia was, the U.S. government is only what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will not do what we want and nothing else. We are Somalians. We must have a confidence ourselves that we call for the U.S. government. We all live in the U.S., pay taxes in the U.S., and have a real interest. The U.S. is a country where one of your daughters is a congressperson. For as long as I am in Congress, Somalia will... Hold on, let's back that one up. For as long as I'm in... Come on, damn it. I'm pausing that one. For as long as I'm in Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopian or any other. The U.S. will not dare support anyone against Somalia to steal our land or oceans. Sleep in comfort knowing I'm here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. I'm sorry, did you not take an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution first? I listened to that earlier and I completely forgot that she said that in Somali. And from the New York Post, of course, Rep. Ilhan Omar faces calls to resign in disgrace over speech in support of Somalia. From Victor Naba, a top House Republican called on Ilhan Omar to resign Monday for delivering a speech in which her critics say she placed Somali interests ahead of American ones. Well, I don't know what the rest of the context was behind that speech, but that's definitely what I got out of the little part that we listened to and read. Ilhan Omar's appalling Somalia First comments are a slap in the face of Minnesotans. She was elected to serve in a direct violation of her oath of office. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer wrote on X, she should resign in disgrace. A clip of the Minnesota lawmaker went viral with over 2.6 million views after it was posted on X, with a translation saying Omar has said, "As Somalis, one day we will go after our missing territories." It's not only slanted, but completely off, Omar said of the subtitles in a speech of her video of her speech shared by Republican Somaliland Foreign Minister Rhoda Elmi. But I wouldn't expect more from these propagandists. I don't speak Somali, so I can't say to that. I am depending on the subtitles for this, and I'll fully admit that. But this is not the first time this particular person has gone with a foreign interest first before her own oath of office. So I'm starting to believe Minnesota is a cold Florida. Not quite. And I lived right on the border of Minnesota. It is a little bit different. It's like a cold what Florida used to be before Ron DeSantis. Do some election stuff here, and then we are going to be moving off here. We'll get through most of this here yet tonight. I think we'll get to all of it. Because like 5 of these articles are all about the Illinois, and we only really have to look at one of them. E. Jean Carroll caught in a bit of candidness because she does not care. She thinks she's getting the money and she doesn't care. Steve Krakauer says Rachel Maddow asked E. Jean Carroll what she's going to do with Trump's money to help women's rights. Carroll says she and Maddow will go shopping, get completely new wardrobes, new shoes. Rachel, what do you want? A penthouse? Her lawyer nervously says that's a joke. And oddly enough, it probably is, but not in the way that her lawyer wants it to be.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No? Oh, all right, okay.
That's a joke.
Although if me fishing in France could do something for women's rights, I would take the hit. You know, I would obviously take one for the team. All right, let me as if you need persuasion in that regard. Let me finish.
This woman's not going to do anything for women's rights. Well, I'm pretty sure that Trump's lawyers just saw this and decided they're going to go, how they're going to go with their appeal. I will hold the same stance that I've always held, and it's the same stance that I hold with Kavanaugh and Ford and with Biden and Reid. The same thing with Stormy and Donald, with E. Jean Carroll and Donald, with everything else. The only 2 people who know what happened in that Bergdorf dressing room in the universe, the only 2 people who will ever know for sure what happened there, are Donald John Trump and Elizabeth Jean Carroll. Nobody else ever in existence will ever know exactly what happened in there. They can speculate. And their speculation will mostly be based on partisan alignment. The people who like Trump are going to say that this woman is a crackpot. I don't like Trump, and I think this woman is a crackpot. The people who want to see Trump burned at the stake think that this woman is a hero, and of course she should be believed because she said something bad about Donald Trump. I will hold the ambiguity. Nobody will ever know what happened in that room except for those 2 people. Everybody else can only speculate. I've been very consistent about that. My wife says, Rachel Maddow, the only woman who can save Graham. Central Casting. By the way, you will not get Maddow Graham image out of your head. That's okay. I want something to dream about later tonight. I want that image there. Let's do this one from the Associated Press. Illinois election officials to weigh recommendations to remove Trump's name from March's primary ballot. No author given from the Associated Press. Former President Trump should be removed from Illinois' primary ballot, but the decision should be left to the courts. A retired judge recommended on Sunday to the state's election board, arguing that it was clear Trump engaged in insurrection on the January 6, 2021 Selfie Fest. The Illinois State Board of Elections is expected to consider the recommendation Tuesday. Attorneys for Trump and citizens seeking to keep Republican former president off the ballot presented their arguments Friday before the hearing officer. Clark Erickson, the retired longtime Kankakee County judge, is a Republican. The Illinois effort to keep Trump off the March ballot is similar to those filed in several other states. The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments next month in a historic Colorado Supreme Court ruling to remove Trump from the state's ballot. The case presents the High Court with its first look at the provision of the 14th Amendment, barring some people who engaged in insurrection from holding public office. Again, I will remind you, the 14th Amendment cannot supersede the 5th, especially with the way that the first section of the 14th Amendment is written. If you want to bar him for insurrection, you actually have to charge him and convict him of insurrection, neither of which is being currently pursued at this moment. A decision in a civil suit does not clear the standard for due process of law. It never has, and it never will. You cannot deny a person his rights to life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness, which includes running for office, without a criminal conviction. Full stop. That is the basis of the Fifth Amendment of this Constitution and the basis of the judiciary of this country. And whether or not you want him on the ballot come November, that should be up to your people. But see, the problem is that the people in Chicago are looking downstate and thinking they might pick wrong. And, of course, this whole thing is moot. Because none of this is to try to prevent him from being elected. In deep blue Illinois, that's going to take all 15 of its electoral votes and just hand them right to Joe Biden at the beginning of counting. 30 seconds into the count, all the electoral votes will go to Biden in November in Illinois. This is about getting a case in front of the Supreme Court to try to force Trump's judges to recuse themselves. NPC News reporting White House clinic improperly distributed controlled substances during the previous admins. New report says, yes, apparently the White House was a drug den, and yet it's still illegal for most of us. Figure that one out. From Megan Leibowitz. The White House Medical Unit had severe and systemic problems with its pharmacy operations and provided health care to ineligible staffers before the Biden admin, according to a scathing report by the Defense Department's Office of Inspector General. I'm going to come out and tell you this. It was happening during the Biden admin, too. The multi-year investigation was prompted in 2018 by complaints alleging a senior military medical officer in the White House clinic had engaged in improper medical practices. The probe included on-site visits and focused on a 3-year period during the Trump admin, as well as employee interviews dating to 2009, so going all the way back to the beginning of the Obama admin. The White House Medical Unit. Dual Helix has joined us over on Rumble. Welcome. The White House Medical Unit dispensed prescription medications, including controlled substances, to ineligible White House staff, said the report, which was released this month. The unit also kept records for Schedule II drugs such as fentanyl, hydrocodone, morphine, and oxy in the same inventory that housed records for other medications, according to the report, even though federal regulations require them to be kept separate. The The clinic's handwritten records from the Trump admin frequently contain errors in medication counts, illegible text, or crossed out text that was not appropriately annotated, the report said. The White House Medical Unit, which consists of multiple clinics in the Washington area, is staffed by military and civilian employees and overseen by the Defense Department. Ronnie Jackson of Texas was the White House physician to present Obama and Trump before he left in 2018. A spokesperson for Jackson said in a statement to NBC News that the congressman was not the director of the White House Medical Unit during the time frame for which the bulk of the records were provided for the report. The spokesperson noted that Jackson was the president's physician under Obama and later the president's chief medical advisor under Trump, and said the latter position, which Jackson assumed in early 2019, was a healthcare policy role and had no association or involvement with the White House Medical Unit's clinical delivery of care. The report said the White House Medical Office spent tens of thousands of dollars during the Trump admin on brand name medications instead of less expensive generic equivalents. Well, you should be using generics. From 2017 to 2019, the unit spent $46,500 on Ambien, a sleeping medication, which the report says is 174 times more expensive than the generic equivalent. The clinic also spent nearly $100,000 during that period on Provigil, a stimulant that's 55 times more expensive than its generic equivalent, the report said. This is probably how they're keeping Biden awake. The oxy is for my cataracts. Yeah, that's what I told people when I was using that stuff too. So that's good, and of course the page shills, first thing they did was they ran out to try to tell you that this was all about the Donald Trump White House. Do we have some election denialism? Yes, we do. From Hill Dog herself. Liz Churchill says, "You really can't make this up. Right-wing extremists will steal the 2024 election," says Hillary.
Highlight something that is keeping me up at night. And I know this group.
What, the souls of the people that you've killed? Oh, wait, no, you'd have to have a conscience for that.
Group really understands what I'm about to say. I know we're all focused on the 2022 midterm elections, and they are incredibly important.
I think pausing the video just screwed
it up. But we also have
to
look ahead. Because you know what? Our opponents certainly are.
Oh, there it goes.
Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election. And they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections.
Hi, question. Hey, hi, how are you doing? Why didn't they do that before? It was already 5-4 when the election went through. Why didn't they do that before? If they had the power to do so and a plan. And now I get no play out of this, so alright. You know, you can get banned on YouTube. Well, not anymore, they changed that. But on certain other platforms for saying that going in the other direction. White House press secretary says Maganomics fails the middle class because, well, she can't stop violating the Hatch Act either.
President Biden will never stop fighting to lower costs and give hardworking American families more breathing room. This stands in stark contrast with House Republicans, who don't have a plan to lower costs and whose Maganomics fails the middle class with tax giveaways for wealthy and big corporations, cuts to Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and higher costs from prescription drugs to utility bills.
There's Okay, my taxes went down the first year the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was in effect, and I only made $38,000 that year. I am hardly wealthy. So that falls flat. My taxes went down significantly that year. Decoy says nobody's ever called it Maganomics. I think 2018 was just called prosperity. It was, but also keep in mind that nobody called it capitalism until very recently. That was a communist sloganeering term to dictate anything that was the opposite of communism. Nobody said trickle down in the Reagan administration either. That was another propagandistic term that was made up by the opponents. But again, lady, you're not supposed to be electioneering from your pulpit. Biden can do it, but you cannot. So keep that in mind. I got one from the New York Times. We never use them. Yeah, we'll get through everything. We've got just one more story after this. Then we'll do things I like and things that I hate. I shit you not. Pelosi wants the FBI to investigate pro-Palestinian protesters. Why? Because she thinks they're Russian interference. Kayla Guo, Rep. Pelosi, Democrat of California, and the former House Speaker on Sunday called for the FBI to investigate protesters demanding a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict, suggesting without evidence that some of the activists may have ties to Russia and President Putin. No, this is not right-wing brief. This is the New York Times. Dual Helix does not care for Hillary Clinton or Karine Jean-Pierre, I see. The Mogwai says, the Clintons never killed anyone. They all just suddenly found stools that are a little rocky and accidentally caught their necks in a rope-like thing. That's right. For them to call for a ceasefire is Mr. Putin's message, Pelosi said during an interview on CNN's State of the Union. Make no mistake, this is directly connected to what he would like to see. Same thing with Ukraine. It's about Putin's message. I think some of these protesters are spontaneous and organic and sincere. Some, I think, are connected to Russia. When pressed on whether she believes some of the demonstrators were Russian plants, Ms. Pelosi said, seeds are plants. I think some financing should be investigated. And I want to ask the FBI to investigate that. Okay. I don't know if you're going full scorched earth at this point or what the story is, but Nancy, turning the FBI on your own voters in an election year is one of the stupidest things you could ever do. I don't know if she's lost it. I don't know if she's serious. Or I don't know if she's going scorched earth. One of those three things is happening. The Mogwai says Nancy's in front of the cameras. Mr. Pelosi must be about to get broken into. And Dual Helix says Pelosi, the delusional projectionist with amazing stock trading skills. And the last one, because your supply chain wasn't interrupted enough. Sassafras84 over on X says breaking, a large explosion with significant fire erupted in Feathercrest Farm chicken plant. Another food processing plant, well, this is food growing plant because this is the actual chicken coop, has gone up in flames. Does anybody know why it's so many meat processing plants or meat byproduct processing plants that keep going up and blowing up? This is a big one too. And they always seem to be in Texas for whatever reason. Let's grab this one from KWTX. Feathercrest Farms fire could take days to fully extinguish. Yeah, my question is how many chickens did we just lose? From Adriana Demas and Megan Cologne. Cologne? What is it? How do you pronounce it when there's an N and then a G and then another N with an E at the end? I don't know. Multiple fire departments are still battling a large fire burning at a chicken farm in a rural part of northeast Brazos County. The fire was reported just after 1700 at Feathercrest Farms near Fickey Road east of Curtin, and officials Monday night say it could be days before it's fully extinguished. Black plumes of smoke could be seen as far away as Limestone County as 2 buildings burned on the property. It's unclear what exactly started it. There's no public threat or hazmat concerns linked to the blaze, authorities said in the news on Monday evening. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you've never been in a chicken coop, commercialized or other, that smoke, it doesn't smell like KFC. That smells like burning ammonia, and it is going to be awful. There's an Amtrak train crash here yesterday, semi-parked on the tracks. Interesting. And it derailed, but that's not supply chain though either. That's people transport, and it's tragic as well that people died in that. But actually, it doesn't look like anybody died. It was a milk semi. 3 people hurt. Does not appear to be any fatalities, but it took the train off the tracks. So I'm glad nobody died. What's the count of chickens that we just lost here though? That are never going to make it to the supermarket shelf. Or the eggs that are never going to make it to the supermarket shelf. And why does this keep happening? Now, I posed the question when we were doing this 3, 4, 5 times a week, does it always happen like this? And we just don't notice about it because it didn't get reported? Or is something fucky going on? I don't know. But we did it. We got through. Actually, just a little bit over the 2-hour mark, but we still have time for things I like and things that I hate. We'll go to 2.5. We have to. So let's do some things I like and things that I hate. First, we're going to do the rules of acquisition. We do that every Tuesday, rather. We look at one of the rules of acquisition for the Ferengi race, the fictitious race in Star Trek, who are known for being hyper-capitalistic. I know it looks like I have a lot on things I like and things that I hate, but this tab is one meme, 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 this tab is one short video, and this tab has a bunch of memes. I actually might reorganize those because I want this over here. No, I don't. I do want this over here because I want to complain about what the memes are in question. But where were we at? Here it is. From False Prophets, a Voyager episode, not a Deep Space Nine episode, with Ferengi who are trapped in the Delta Quadrant after going through a wormhole in the Next Generation. Those Ferengi returned through a trip on Voyager, having taken over a planet and turning it over into a slave class to make them more profit. The 257th rule of acquisition, spoken behind Captain Janeway's back, says when the messenger comes to appropriate your profits, kill the messenger. So a couple things with this. Of course, obviously, we're not going to go around killing people in our society. If you do, you go to prison, and then you have no profit. And a Ferengi without profit is no Ferengi at all. But when you look into this, one of the things you have to make sure is that you're keeping those who would take your profit away from your profit. Whether it's by playing by some arbitrary set of rules, and we are going to talk about that on Thursday, since we are going to make it through everything here. We'll do an I'm doing an unboxing live stream on Thursday. Whether it's playing by the arbitrary set of rules and getting the licensing that you need properly to do so, or whether it's by hiding away things that you don't want the authorities to see, the important part is always to keep the messenger away from your profits. So you don't have to go down the unpleasant path of the other direction and possibly wind up dead yourself, because the 44th rule of acquisition is dead men make no profits. And the 63rd rule of acquisition, a Ferengi without profit is no Ferengi at all. And if you go to prison, you're not going to have any profits. So maybe don't go to this extreme, but do make sure that your profits are protected. Let's do some things that I like and some things that I hate. Things that I like today. I found this. I've been pointing out to people recently that if Bowling for Soup's hit 2004 song, which I thought was 2005 actually, but no, I looked it up. It was a 2004. Their 2004 hit, 1985, it was released today, would be called 2004, because we're that old. And then somebody actually made it a song, although this young woman pushed back to 2002, the year I graduated high school, actually. And I thought we'd take a short listen to it. We're not going to do the whole song, but we'll see. She wrote it to the exact same tune and the same lyric structure of the original song, but put it full of early 2000s references. I hope that you guys appreciate this. I definitely did. This is Davin singing 2002, featuring Bowling for Soup.
Jessica's so burnt out, she's filled with all this doubt. Adderall can't shake the smile she learned to fake. Drowning in student debt, wish that she could go back. Life was so simple then, now what's her age again? Where's the Ugg boots and the tube tops? And where is Paris telling everybody that's hot? When did flip-phones become vintage? Whatever happened to sidekicks, hit clips, nylon wire hair, Britney, Christina, way before Rihanna. There was Avril and Nelly and Fear Factor on NBC. Her two friends are trendy, they tell her that she's cringy, cause she still never outgrew 2000, 2000, 2002. 2002. She's played all the same.
Those references hurt a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And that was 22 years ago. Those references hurt a little bit, I'm not going to lie. I will put the link to this song into the Discord. Or, like you see on the top there, if you search Davin, D-A-V-Y-N, 2002, you'll be able to pull it up on YouTube for yourself. Entertaining song, really good song. Being 40 next year, the references hurt a little bit, or this year rather. 2 months. Still entertaining song. I definitely recommend it. Let's do some more things that I like. Dumbass Photoshop. So we go back to the article that we looked at earlier, where we were told that the border, the MAGA people were going to do the border, and they're going to put alligators and electrify the fence and shoot the people in the leg and put spikes in the legs. Well, people decided to meme that. The best thing about some of the horrible things that have been happening is the memes. There's Bob Ross. You were just going to put a little zappy little fence right there. Painting and showing what the meme actually shows. I love this. This is so fantastic. Where's... Mogwai says, Going back to the chicken thing. I don't know how many chickens we lost. I didn't count the chickens before they hatched. I wish I hadn't put all my eggs in one hatchery. Thank you. I think the next Alien movie is going to be called Romulus, I believe. Interesting. I'll have to fight Paramount for that. VK. With all the same things out here, except for the Donald. With his thumbs up with the campaign ad. Yeah, a lot of people came out and said, yeah, you don't have to sell Donald to us anymore. We're already going to vote for him. Say less. The same picture with the representative in front this time, except with a hand that says, vote Trump. Robert Garcia. First putting the picture out, not the video. This is Trump's border plan. Alligator moats, bombing Mexico, electric fences, and shooting migrants in the legs. You knew this was going to be made into a meme, boys. Friend of the show, Arvolt. With a different take on that. With the Florida alligators sitting out there waiting in the moat. The helicopters and Donald himself with the big iron. That I'm sure the Secret Service isn't actually going to let him have. One more meme that I thought was really good based on some of the things that we saw here. Wyatt Reed says, time for Congress to introduce the Graham Rule. What is the Graham Rule, you ask? Well, it's simple. Every elected official who demands a new war is automatically drafted to serve at the front lines. Lindsay, you get to go first. Bye-bye! I wish we could get some of these more. Why don't presidents, or by extension Congress people, fight the wars? Why do they always send the poor? Lindsay, you want this so bad? Get your ass out there. I almost forgot one of the last things that I was going to do on things that I like. One last thing that I like here before we get into the rest of the memes is I do want to point this out here. You guys probably saw me with this bottle a little bit earlier. And I go through this every year. I actually typically gain about 5 pounds this time of year. Our local, Wisconsin, Illinois now, Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota-based convenience store chain, Quick Trip, puts out various different flavors of milk throughout the year. And right in the beginning of January, they took the eggnog down, and they gave us this delightful bottle here, which is called Mint Milk. It tastes like a Shamrock Shake, except it's not as thick. I spent so much money on this stuff. I asked, because I know people in the organization, if I can actually get a gallon of this. Not that it would last, but I love milk. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm Wisconsin's native son. I love mint. And they put the two together without making it so overpowering it tastes like you're brushing your teeth. If you get into Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, or North Dakota or South Dakota, find your local Quick Trip or Quick Star store and get this. I'm telling you right off the bat. If you're not here, I'm sorry to hear that, but god damn, that's good. Greg Price with a video off of this. Anti-Israel protesters. The ones that Nancy Pelosi once investigated. Showed up to John Fetterman's house in Braddock tonight. He responded by waving an Israeli flag at them from his roof.
Fetterman, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Fetterman, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide!
I don't think he's actually trying to hide. I think he's giving you guys the finger.
Fetterman, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Fetterman, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Fetterman, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Fetterman, you can't.
So, my thoughts on Fetterman, of course. off the table because he is still a fucking gun grabber and he's still a socialist. Full stop. Full medical tyrannist. Everything else. But he does get some good quips in, and I will give credit where credit is due, and that was fucking hilarious. I like that. Now we will do the crossover, the thing that I both like and hate, and we go back to the memes. But the memes are here because we are all talking about Taylor Swift and the conspiracy theory that she's making MAGA so mad and this, that, and the next thing. But our friend Arvold, again, made a bunch of memes because people wanted this particular image memed. With her whispering in the ear of Travis Kelce of probably all the nasty things that she was going to do to him later. Most likely because he won the NFC Championship. Whether you believe that was staged or not is your own business. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other off this. Here's the one. You idiot. I told you I'm betting on you to lose. That I cannot say out loud on YouTube. But all the other secrets that she told him. Darth Vader is actually Luke's father. Rosebud is the name of the sled. During this game, I scored more times than you do. She meant Grammy nominations. Get your mind out of the fucking gutter. That was actually one that Arvold put up there. Those insurance commercials aren't funny. That's a good one. Pineapple belongs on pizza. Fact check true. Real communism has never been tried. Don't tell anyone. But I voted for Trump. Can you get Patrick's phone number? You know those AI images? We're totally doing that tonight. That was a funny one. That one you can put your mind into the gutter for. This is going to make such a great breakup song. And of course, the meme that's been going around. A second plane has struck the World Trade Center. I like that this is funny. I like the fact that people are having fun with this. I hate the fact that that Taylor Swift is becoming politicized. I enjoy a little bit of Taylor Swift's music, mostly before she turned pop. So pre-Shake It Off, although I like Shake It Off. There are a couple post-Shake It Off songs that I like, but mostly I like pre-Shake It Off Taylor Swift. I liked her a lot. I liked her a lot actually before that. But it's coming to the point that everything has been politicized so much. Now, I don't know what the story is, why the paid shills are coming and telling us that MAGA's afraid of her, they're afraid of this, they're that, the next thing, and other people are coming out and saying, this is staged because they want to get her on screen to get more people coming off of this. I don't know if this was staged or not. It does make it a little bit leery to me of the fact that the boyfriend of the media star that the media is trying to astroturf just happened to get to the NFC Championship and might get to the Super Bowl for a second year of the row. But I'm not going to go cry conspiracy theory on this, mostly because I really still want to like the Packers. Like a lot. Gosh, I love the Packers. It was hard for me to go and hold my boycott for as long as I did, going against the Packers. Well, going against the NFL in general, because while I don't really care for most of the teams, I like the Packer games, and I like the pageantry that comes with it. But now the NFL is going back to being politicized, and Taylor Swift, a brainless pop star, is also being politicized. Why? If you like her music, listen to her music. If you don't, listen to something else. But remember, artists are most likely not going to align with you politically. They're artists. They're liberal by nature. So, that is my take on this. A couple other things that I hate. Fox 6 News is actually wrong on this. But they don't think that they're wrong. Fox 6 Milwaukee says more U.S. adults now identify their religion as none than anything else. Daniel Miller reporting. We'll look at this briefly, but I'll talk to you about the religion they actually have. A new study finds that more people aren't identifying with a specific religion. In a study from Pew Research Center, roughly 28% of U.S. adults don't have a religious affiliation known as nuns. Not N-U-N, N-O-N-E-S. Researchers conducted a survey with 11,201 respondents between July 31st and August 6th. The report also featured interviews with 3,317 religious nuns, consisting of atheists, agnostics, and I was agnostic for a long time. I would not consider myself non-religious. And respondents describing their religion as nothing in particular. According to the study, 17% of nuns identify as atheists, 20% say they are agnostic, and 63% chose nothing in particular. So, the problem with this is that, and I've met a lot of these people, especially on the atheistic side, where they're looking at the government as their religion. There is a definite sect of government worship that's going on right now. That's part of the reason that I hate this. Because they're waiting for the government to come back out and take care of them. And be their provider. And be their everything. And take care of the evil. In their case, either MAGA or the socialists. Because it goes both ways. It really does. And you should, if you are at all religious, you should get yourself into an affiliated church somewhere. It's a great community. My big regret right now is I've not been able to get to my church because on the Sundays that I do work and I'm still here, I always way oversleep. Like I look at the clock and it's 10:40 and the latest service in my church starts at 10:45 and I still have to get across town. And I know I'm not going to make it and I don't want to walk in that late to church. Or I'm already standing out. And then the last couple weekends I've been in Buffalo County early in the morning on Sunday morning. So, but it is constantly a great community to have, and I recommend it. I know they've been patient with me because of everything that happened with my family, so, and I feel like they will be waiting there with open arms when I get back. So, one of the members of my church actually is in our Discord. I'm not going to say who, but one of the members there is with us. Good guy, too. A couple other things that I hate. The climate activism continues on a priceless work of art that's been studied forever. Activists splatter Mona Lisa with soup in the Louvre. And that is going to cost a fortune in art restoration. Activists splattered the glass-covered Mona Lisa painting with soup at the Louvre on Paris, according to the food security group behind the protest. 2 women opened thermoses and splashed the famous Leonardo da Vinci painting at about 1000 hours, said the group Riposte Alimentaire, or Food Response. A video posted online by the group showed streaks and splashes of orange on the bulletproof glass and the blue wall behind the painting. The women, who the group identified as Sasha and Marie Juliette, then crossed behind the protective wooden railing, stood on either side of the painting and called for the integration of food into the general society security system. In France, 1 in 3 people skip meals due to lack of means, Riposte Alimentaire said in a statement posted in French. At the same time, 20% of the food produced is thrown away. Our model stigmatizes the precarious and does not respect our fundamental right to food. Which I understand, and I mean, if you know me personally, you know that I do everything that I can not to throw any food out. I try to use as much as I can because I've been poor. I've been at the bottom. So I try to use up everything that I can. Eat it all, if either in one sitting, if not 2. But I try really hard to make sure that I don't toss anything. In fact, I'm debating going on a meal service just to make sure, because it is hard to cook for one. I'll fully admit to that. But I don't know why these people want to go back out and destroy everything around them to make their point. All it's doing is making people angrier at their causes. And the last thing that I hate, the propaganda, of course. And people bought into this too, by the way. The Quds News Network. Displaced citizens sheltering in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis shared a photo of the Israeli sniper bullets fired at the hospital. And my question, of course, is, did he shoot it with his hand? Did he throw it at you? Because if you know anything about firearms, you know that didn't come out of the barrel of a rifle. That is a 50 cal that a sniper would use in Israel. But in order for that to be the bullet that he's firing at you in that hospital, you'd be missing this part. That wouldn't have gone with this part. This is pure propaganda. Meant to prey on the fears, again, of people who know nothing about arms, armaments, or anything that goes with them. This would be laying on the ground next to the sniper if he was actually shooting the bullets at you. Which at this point, I have no reason to believe that he was. And yet people will look at this and eat this all up. They'll see the fact that it's the size of a person's hand and say, wow, that's a massive bullet. Think of all the damage it could do with that. When again, and still, 50 cal, it's still going to do massive damage, but the only part that's actually doing any of the motion, if you're actually firing this bullet, is from here to here. The rest of this goes clink, clink, clink on the ground next to the sniper. So, there we go. Things I like and things that I hate. Oh, it's 8:30 already. We went for 2:27, but we got done. So, there's that. Let me get this up here so we can get finished out here. Get some outro music up. There are going to be some announcements in the outro too, so we've got that going on. Where is my outro music? There it is. It's still queued up. All right, well, thanks everybody who came by and chatted. New chatter, of course. Lunar Trees, who joined us here for most of the stream. Thank you for that. I hope you'll tell some friends. We'll get some more people in here. We get any alerts over on the Twitch side? No, not this time, but yeah, thanks so much. Final Fantasy X tomorrow night, 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. Might get finished. I think we got like 3 more episodes, realistically. Because I do think there's going to need to be some grinding before we go into the final bosses. But we've got like 2 or 3 episodes left, including tomorrow night. We're right at the end. And I'm not going to go down to a lot of side content because I do want to move on and play some other games. But I also really want to see the end credits of this game, so we're going to finish it. And then next time on Wednesday after that, it's going to be, once we're done with that, it's going to be Diablo 2. We're going to run one character down from beginning to end. Looking forward to that. That's one of my favorite video games ever put to software. And then Thursday, because we're not doing a makeup stream, I'm actually going to do an unboxing and kind of explain where I'm going to be taking my life after this. News and politics is still going to be here. But I'm going to try my hand at actually making something different with my life. So do please join me. Let's try for 7 on Thursday night. We'll do the unboxing. We'll do some cozy. I do have to work on Friday morning, but I might grab myself a little glass of wine and we'll sit here and we'll talk about it. I think the wine would be perfect for that, so come back and join me for that. Otherwise, we will be here next Tuesday for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Take care. Have a fantastic night. Thanks, everybody. And until next time, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.